Yes.
You asked for it, you get it. Ryu and I will rip your photos into smithereens. Hold on to your headphones. Here comes the pain.
Yes, I'm painfully sleepy right now. So let's just kind of, get through this in one piece. We've got a lot more than last time, which is a good thing because that means that people realize their photos are shit and they need to have it kind of seen and talked about and figure out what's going on, what they're doing good, what they're doing bad. And yeah, we got quite a lot. So let's just get on with it. And the first one is John. Okay, Matt Cohen. John needs your help.
Uh,
You can be safe, but John needs help.
yeah, it's disappointing.
Is it
Get
Tom
past.
Gigliotta from like the Minnesota Timberwolves? No.
Yeah. So I recognize that, it was a good opportunity to shoot this for you, and that, it's impressive that people that don't have the use of their lower bodies are able to play hockey, but that doesn't help your picture. And this is not a good picture.
No.
And I'm surprised. I would have thought that you were, at least at this point, able to recognize something like, that's this bad would not be a picture. So specifically, you've got the backs. They're not doing anything. There's a little bit of ice flying up, but there's a whole lot of white space. There's no separation between your subjects and the background. The background is bad because it's just a big ad. There's really nothing here, and I would imagine that, or I would have hoped that would have been obvious to you from the outset. So, yeah, it's not good. Disconcerting. Bad way to start.
No, it's really bad. I have nothing else. It's just a throwaway straight up,
Yeah, I mean, this is literally, I don't care if you were shooting for that guy's family. That's a delete in the camera.
I think that family would be really sad and say, "Hey guys, I got a picture of I guess Tom. Tom." They cry, huh? They cry because it's so shit. You can't do that kind of stuff, people. I almost like this. I don't know. There's something. I don't know if it's a balance that I don't like, or is this too overexposed?
It looks like so. Okay, so we've been really harsh on Reed, and I'm still not convinced that he's fully paying attention. He shoots a lot, and I want to see more progress. I like the fact that he is at least trying different things. Most of those things aren't working out. This is fairly close to working out, but yes, it looks bad. The colors and the exposure is grating to the eyes. It has all the worst kind of characteristics of HDR. Just the colors that. No, I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying that the way it looks has the grating effect on my eyes that HDR does. It's just not pleasing. The way that it's exposed and the color is not pleasing to the eye. How could this be fixed? A little bit more care in the composition. So it's great that you have minimized the cyclists, but that you can still tell that they're cyclists. I like how far away it is. This is a not obvious kind of shot relative to the ones that you've been putting in the pool where it's just athlete and that's it. The problem is the care that went into making this picture and post-processing and cropping and whatever. So let's look at the lower left-hand side where there's longer grass than there is in the rest of the picture. That's really distracting, and that really could have been cropped out. That's not going to save the picture, but these are the little details as you kind of hone in on something that's interesting. These are the kind of little details that can just crash your picture. And this does. So there's no reason for it to be in there, so you need to just get rid of it. That doesn't make it a great picture, but it does help it a little bit. But this needs to look more natural than it does. And if this is natural, then maybe this isn't the best place to be. The whole thing has like that greenish blue cast to it, even the parts that aren't greenish and blue. So yeah, I don't know. I think that this is ripe for exploration. I think that you can make a picture like this and that you can do it well, but think about your composition more. Think about, maybe not putting those cyclists right in the middle of the frame. Think about, maybe having them as very close to the bottom of the frame or very close to the top of the frame or something like that. I don't mind those telephone poles because they are kind of providing a little bit of a frame inside of there. But you need to make this more visually pleasing from color, exposure, what's in the frame, and how it's arranged in the frame. So I'm happy to see the progress, but this is still not good at all.
Yeah, I'm just been thinking about the looking at the picture again whilst Matt was speaking about it. I think I would have actually, if you're gonna have everything balanced, and I would just waited a bit more until you had a perfect balance between here, that space, and then that space there. So you got the whole thing, or go extreme and actually have the rider all the way there, or all the way here. But in that case, the poles would actually be a bit distracting because it would just kind of chop off one of the riders in half. Yeah, composition up or down, I think so as well. You could actually at least tried it. But I think, yeah, the colors are really bugging me. And like I don't know what happened over here, but yeah, there has to be something that you could have done. I guess next time. And then yeah, please make sure you look at or listen to the podcast that should be coming out after Training Ground is published, and about that guy who's the cycle photographer and how he approaches this subject.
Just
Moving
the
on.
overriding thing is be more careful. All of the people think that, just because they got something in the frame, there's still could be plenty of things in the frame that are murdering your picture. And so that grass in the lower left is, part of what I'm talking about. That's your responsibility to either compose around it or crop out of it or something. But those things will take away from your picture and they will make a good idea into a throwaway, which is what happened.
I think that's kind of like what, for instance, like this picture by George Hitchens Photography does. It's like he's kind of got everything right except for that fucking car in the back. Like,
Yeah.
you've done all the work. You have to be very mindful. Like if you're creating an image, you have to be really mindful what's going on around the main subject and what you want to convey over here. Like you want to convey that, you want this whole blurry thing. That's fine. And I think you've got everything done, except for the fact that like there's a stupid car over there. And that you should have known. You should know. And because
And
of that, it automatically becomes a really shitty picture.
yeah,
Um,
it's unfortunate, and I think that people, they're like copying a plea, like, oh well, what could I have done? Well, it doesn't matter what you could have done. You had to have done something. So, I have in the past shot plenty of auto racing. You cannot possibly tell me that in 15 minutes of, that you might have devoted to getting this picture, that it couldn't have been one car only in the frame. That happens all the time where one car is either out in front or the pack is bunched up and there's somebody trailing behind or something like that. So that's definitely your responsibility. What else could you do? Drop the shutter even more so that anything that's not going exactly at the same speed as the car that you're shooting is even more blurred out. Like that could have been blurred out just as well as the background could have. So there's all kinds of things that you could have done, but you need to do something. And you need to, like, you wouldn't leave a gigantic, so you're shooting at a when you pan, you need to scroll back again to what the f-stop was, just for example, 18. So if your sensor had been dirty and you're shooting at f18, it would have showed up, so that you would have had a gigantic dust spot in the sky. And this is something that I have to deal with all the time because I'm shooting panning in broad daylight at rodeos. And so if I made a mistake cleaning my sensor, there's a dust spot. You wouldn't have put this picture up there with a gigantic dust spot against a blue sky. That's what that car is, except the dust spot you're allowed to clone out, and the car you're not allowed to clone out. But they're still ruining your picture one way or the other. So you need to figure out a way around that.
Oh. I I when I saw this, I was really surprised because Mikhail doesn't really put up. I mean, he's a really good photographer, you know. Um, I think it's one of those things he wanted to. I'm assuming this is volleyball. Yeah, because it's volleyball netting or hand, but it's something like it's a handball or volleyball type of thing. That's probably the case. Yeah, probably handball, or it could be football. It doesn't matter. The thing is, it the shooting through the net is fine. I highly encourage it. Shooting through anything like that guy yesterday when we were recording a podcast shot through the wheels of the bicycle and it looks beautiful when it works. Um, but that's not really enough. It's like when you do something quite creative and interesting, you have to make sure that you do that. I mean, that it's done perfectly. Like the blurry picture, the panning stuff, the one before we just discussed. But the subject has to be doing something interesting. It's just how it is. And it does happen from time to time with people who are on training ground that they get quite happy about the technique that they use, or the creativity that just kind of got thrown into the mixture, and say, oh, look how creative I was by doing this. Like, well, that's great, but what's happening in the picture? And there's nothing happening in the picture, and you have to be careful. There has to be something interesting happening, otherwise it doesn't really become a picture. There's an exception to it, which we'll probably get as we go along this set of training ground pictures. But yeah, this is shit. Like it's just this is a shitty picture because there's nothing happening. What is this guy doing? What is this? There's nothing happening. So you have to go along, and we'll see
Yeah,
more.
you need an expression, or you need a gesture, or you need some kind of conflict or something like that. You manage to get the player in focus through the netting, but if he's not doing anything, there's still no picture.
No. Well, there's nothing going on here. And Amar, that's just how it is. There's nothing going on. Feet cut, heel cut, everything cut. Nothing happening here. I mean, it would have been more interesting to actually, focus on the kids that are in the background and the rain. But saying that, like, if you had you focus on the kids in the background in this competition, it would have been really bad. In any case, it's an all-no throwaway. There's top to bottom. There's nothing going on. Nothing's right. I'm sorry. It's really bad take picture. Can I go on? Good.
Yeah, it's also underexposed.
All right, Matt Cohen. It's a bit more difficult one. So take two. Mikhail Borman, Matt Cohen.
Yeah, I mean, this is better than the one through the net because you have the eyes and it's at least an interesting expression. I don't dislike it, but it's also not a good picture. It's just what it is. Like if you were assigned to go shoot this goalie and you needed a non-action picture for a little bit of color or something like that, then that's fine. But I don't know, would you want to have this on your wall as a big frame print or something like that? Probably not. It's just a basic headshot during a game.
I slightly disagree because I do actually really like that expression. The problem is in this kind of the way it's been composed is very boring. There's nothing going on in terms of the composition. There's no light that's not interesting either, but the facial expression to me is very good. So if you get something like this, you need to then be thinking like, okay, what kind of composition can I do to make it exciting? As it stands, it's not very exciting. You got to really focus on the eyes, and it's just a really normal picture. So when you get into this kind of situation again, like I said, you need to be thinking like, okay, how can I make it look beautiful? Because it's there. Everything's there to make it beautiful. Now I have to be really thinking, how can I actually like concentrate on the eyes and the gaze that he's doing into something that would really be very striking. So that'd be your homework for next time. Yeah, it's really good. I love the expression. All right. I think Alvaro wrote something. Can I just go back here because he wrote something about this? I think our problem is composing this picture. This one that bad. Matt Cohen, bad, ugly,
Uh,
or tremendously bad.
yeah, okay. So I guess, where I come down on this is that two guys heading a ball, it doesn't matter which two guys they are, it's just not going to be a special picture. I mean, what would this picture need to be interesting? Those guys, if they were like parallel to the ground and, heading the ball at the same time or something like that. When you shoot something common, then it needs to be special. And so I don't care about the composition or whatever. Just do it again. If you're not happy with the composition, and really you shouldn't be, just do it again. How many times is it going to happen during a game that two guys are going to hit the ball 40 times in a game? 30 times that you'll have, the ability to shoot from where you are. So, we can quibble on, how balanced it is, or, is it bad that the guy in the front is cut off? Is it bad that you can't see their feet? Is it bad that somebody's standing behind them? Is it bad that people are wearing yellow fluorescent jerseys behind the barrier? You can quibble about all that kind of stuff, but in the end, what's the difference? Even if all of that was perfect, what do you have? Two guys heading a ball. So,
Yeah.
your timing is fine and the exposure is fine and you were able to isolate the action, but that's not enough. You know that.
And when you see the picture, like if you find it very, very exciting, then I think there's a picture in there anyway. But you know, like Matt said, like two guys hitting the ball is not exciting because unless it's just two guys hitting the ball at the end. You can compose differently, lighting, everything. Well, lighting would have been a different thing, I think, because if it's a day game, you could do a lot more to make it a bit more exciting. But at the end, everything, everything. The people in there has to be doing something exciting. Otherwise, it won't really be a picture. I can see hair. Um, tattoos. Everyone has tattoos. My mom has tattoos, which she actually got tattoos on her eyebrows because her eyebrows are really thin. She actually got them tattooed to make them really, really dark. So she doesn't have to put make. I'm really. Apparently it's a serious story. And then she told me I can't have a tattoo. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you just got one. Anyway, I've got one. So does this guy. So when you're shooting a tattoo, it has to look cool. You're just now this is just you're just shooting a tattoo, like just straight up. That's it. It's not like you've composed it beautifully in a way that like it accentuates the tattoo or like it draws your eyes to the tattoo in a meaningful way. This tattoo for me is not a very particularly beautiful tattoo. Like it just has like what 15, right? I guess no 17. Is it? LV2. No, it's not 10.
No,
No. Is it
L is
7?
50.
50, right? So it's 57. So in a rose. And it's not like I don't know, I'm just like not wowed by a tattoo. And the person who's looking at it has to be wowed by a tattoo. And it has to be shown in a way like he's actually like, pulling up his sleeve and showing his tattoo or kissing his tattoo or really showing it, or it's really just basically it's presented in a very beautiful way. And it isn't. I see more hair than tattoo here. And I just find it quite, because it's not really nice. Like that much hair on a tattoo just doesn't looks like it's like a unplucked chicken or something. It looks really weird. So no, this is a no go, and I think
Yeah,
you're gonna have to do another one like this. Like you have to really think about like, okay, I want to shoot that tattoo. I find it very beautiful. How can I shoot it so it looks beautiful? Because here, it's like you just show it. You just saw the tattoo. You shot it. Boom, it's done. There's no thought
I
into
think
it.
looking at this picture, like it when I just saw it, it did make me want to look at it closer, but then there's no payoff.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. If it had been what team? I don't know,
No idea.
Cork City. If it had been the logo of the team or the logo of the sponsor that was right on top of it or something, then that might have made it a little bit more interesting. But the tattoo doesn't have any context at all. It's just a tattoo.
Mm.
You wouldn't know how it related to the team or the player. You wouldn't know what player it was. So it's just
Hair.
um,
It's just hair.
I don't care about that part of it. It's you're missing something, and the something is the payoff because the tattoo doesn't relate to the team or the sponsors or even football. So
Yeah. So yeah, think again. All right, Matt Cohen. There's no tattoo, but there's a lot of rugby. And I think I know what
yeah,
he means
I
by
like what
that.
he was going for with the leaving out the bodies and leaving in the shadows, but it's not enough.
No, it's quite
Um,
unclear. You know.
for me, you need to. So how would this work? If the shadows were longer and filled up more of the frame so that you could have less of the actual bodies, then that would be interesting. You have not enough shadow and too much body for it to be a shadow picture is really, I guess, the simplest way I could put it. It's not what's going on in the picture isn't interesting enough on its own, so you need the shadow to make it interesting. The more shadow there would be and the less actual bodies there would help you out, and that's not happening. It's like, a little bit more body than shadow, and so that's not enough.
Mm.
So
And angle wise, it's very difficult to do shadow because you're quite flat to the ground and you can't
yeah,
really see the shadow. You know, so it'd be kind of be a bit higher.
yeah,
Um,
if you went up and you don't even need the ball. Like, the ball is
mm,
not the important part of this picture. The shadows are. So if you went up and you cut
that would
everybody
be
off
really
at the
cool.
ankles and you just had the
Yeah,
feet or something like that, and then you had
that
the
would be really
shadow,
cool.
then that's where it is.
Yeah, that really would have been a really cool picture. So, almost, but not quite.
It's good though. I mean, it's good that he's trying things. It's good that
Yeah.
he's seeing details. It's good that he's trying, um, to go for things that are less obvious, but that's not enough in its own.
Simon West, cricket bowler. Yeah, but it's like, you get to a point where so many of the images are really just like stock photos. Like, you can get them like from any game. And I'm not saying every photo should not be a stock photo. Hmm. But in my mind, it shouldn't be because you should really always go for something quite interesting and kind of it's got your touch on the whole scene. And this one is one of those things that, I mean, Matt and I have actually said, like, yeah, these things happen billion times per match. Like the bowlers bowl a lot during a match. So what's so significant about it? If it's something like it's very, very unique, um, or if it's something like I'm even seeing like, okay, if I don't understand what cricket is, I'm looking at this, like what I actually find is interesting. To a certain point, but if you look at how the photos are composed, the tips of the fingers cut like it's not like it's touching the frame the edge of the frame. Like it's almost cut. And there's no ball. Not that it really need one, but it really adds a bit more context to the whole thing. And it's just the fact that like the body in the front, the bowler is hiding the batsman behind in a really weird way. It really doesn't. It's not really nice to my eyes. And on top of that, like I just don't think there's nothing really interesting going on. Even if I don't know what this sport is. So you need to really come up with a way to present it in a way that, especially in the background, doesn't look really messy like this because it detracts a lot out of
It's yeah,
everything.
it really what it comes down to is that it's sloppy. So the ground isn't parallel to the frame.
Mm,
The way that, like Ryu said, that the way that the is it the bowler
yeah.
is covering up the batter is not good. There's an easy fix to that, and not knowing, I guess, well, not knowing a cricket field all that well, I don't know, but if you had been lower and to the left of where you were, you could have framed the batter with the bowler. That would have been better. I don't like the angle because you're not showing off anything other than the bowler's arm. What I want to see is him looking graceful and athletic. And I don't think that this is the right angle, like straight up behind him. I don't think that it's like that. It's like if I've made pictures of American football kickers kicking off and the ball is long gone and they're in, a pose that would rip the muscles out of a normal person's legs and abs. That's what you want to see. You need to find the angle that shows off how athletic this person is. And it just doesn't do that. It's lost against the batter, and it's from behind, and you really only have one leg, and it's only one arm that's really doing anything that's out of the ordinary. So I don't really like this angle. But if you were trying to show bowler and batter at the same time, then I would move lower left and try to frame the batter with the bowler's body, like get low enough so that the head of the batter is underneath the chest of the bowler. That's the best I can think of here. And, then make the ground parallel to the frame.
Yeah, it's like just get, if you don't put the batsman and the I forgot what the guy is called behind the wicket keeper, I think. Just don't get those two involved. Just like concentrate on the bowler itself. Just cut his legs off, or just concentrate on his arms. Like you can kind of just don't have to frame the whole thing. You don't want to get into the habit of like thinking like all sports photography you need to have everything in the frame, and it's unnecessary. Read. It's not interesting. It isn't interesting. I think you should use the flash to actually do the whole thing, and it just doesn't really work because nothing is going on right now, and it doesn't really matter. Everything has to if nothing good is going on, and nothing's good is going on. So compared to what you've actually shown us in the previous picture with the field and the bikers, which we've actually did talk about in the podcast, saying that it's something that a lot of people do. So I guess you want to kind of get away from it. Like apparently this whole using the flash thing on the riders also is something that a lot of cycling photographers do. So maybe you can get away from it. Maybe you really I think you would really, 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 really appreciate and get a lot out of that article. Read it and then really, really read it and tell yourself, okay, if this guy can do it, why can I not do it? You need to put more care into your photography in general, because I'm not as harsh as Matt on you as he was, saying before, but there are times I see your picture and say you really don't seem to care. You really need to put a lot more effort into actually shooting one scene than just kind of doing a burst of these and say, okay, here's the picture. I'm
not, that guy, I should really learn his name because he's really good, but I don't remember. For him, getting away from the flash is him trying to differentiate himself from other top professionals, and I absolutely respect that. I don't think that that's the right advice for everybody who's shooting cycling. That said, so you have an opportunity to shoot these guys in the middle of the day, like the other picture was. So when you shoot them, I don't understand. You're getting up at 5:40 in the morning. You're obviously dedicated to this. I don't understand why you're not more dedicated to the actual craft, right? People don't get up this early normally. I hate getting up this early. And when you're going to do it, you got to make it worth doing it. And so I'm not opposed to using the flash because you wouldn't have been able to get this any other way. But the thing is, I'll find myself in situations where it's too dark, and if it's a rodeo and the lights are from 1960 or something like that, there's no chance. It's too big to strobe, and I'm not going to use on camera. So what am I trying to do? I'm trying to make silhouettes. I'm trying to make little intimate moment black and white pictures of non-action. You don't need to do this, right? If you want to use fill flash because it's noon and you're shooting against the sun and their faces are going to be completely in the shadow, that's fine. I don't have any problem with that at all. But if you're shooting this early in the morning and there's going to be a sunrise or something like that, then I really don't think the flash is necessary, because I don't think you need to be shooting action at 5:40 in the morning.
No.
So this is a time where you can be creative. You don't need to shoot the action. So you don't need the strobe. If you're going to use it, then do something that's more creative. And, again, please read the blog post that we're going to link to in the post for the podcast, because that guy, when he's getting low, he's getting low. You're not committed to this. You're committed to get up really early in the morning. What is keeping you from getting lower than this? That guy his camera was on the ground. It's lower than the pedals. You are higher than the handlebars. So, I don't get it. I don't understand why. It's frustrating to me, because we should be seeing some kind of progress by now. And it's annoying that you're getting up at 5:40 in the morning and making snapshots.
But you know what? Like, I think, remember, like, he was saying that there's like a video that we posted of this ski photographer, and he said like, oh, it's very difficult to actually like do these things. Like, I think he has this thing that effort actually means something in sports photography, which means
why then he's not paying attention, because we talk about that every podcast. We talk about it every training ground. Your results are all that matters. How interesting your pictures are is all that matters. That's it. It just doesn't. You don't understand that taking risks while you're shooting does not matter, because either the picture is going to be good and you have a nice story out of it, or the picture is going to suck and you're an idiot for taking a risk to not get a nice picture.
Yeah.
And sacrificing by getting up that early in the morning is not going to make your pictures any better, unless you're taking advantage of the specific things that make getting up at 5:40 worth it. And that is, what is it called? Dawn. You're shooting at dawn. You're shooting at sunrise. Those are the interesting things that happen at 5:40 in the morning. And by using a flash, you're really negating all of that. So,
I mean, the thing is, like, you have to like realize that if you're shooting at dawn, so you're really just like, you have to like think like, what's the biggest advantage I have with that? It's the light, That's the whole thing. You have to dedicate yourself to like the light, how the light is actually gonna be turning from one point of shooting to another, and the sunrise, like, and I'll be like checking like, okay, which direction is sunrise? Like, okay, where should I actually be, be, so I can actually best utilize the sunrise. Like, it's how it is. And I honestly, like, like I just said, that I think with him, it's all about the effort more than anything else. Because why would you actually put 5:40 a.m. on there? If you actually like not want to brag about what the rest of people say, like, look how early I got up to get this shot.
Yep.
So I'm sorry, Reed. Like, it really, really is. Like, you have to kind of like get that into your head and say, you know what, I need to really be, thinking about photography and not about the effort, the end result, more than anything else. His daughter. So by the way, like, I know the thing because I read the thing. So I just want to go back. Yeah, I know. Of course I do. Name him, shame him. That's the whole point of this. My daughter surveying. So it's number, I guess, 13. Doesn't matter. So that's his daughter. By God, Alan, your daughter will be very, very unhappy if that's the only shot of her that you got, which is, first of all, out of focus, terrible, and probably really, really bad. It's everything about it is just terrible. Like, you've not thought about anything about it. And I really have a very difficult time understanding that if you are shooting a high school game anywhere in the world, and if you have a decent camera, if like one of the parents says, hey, you know what, like, I've got a decent camera, I want to actually shoot a game, because back of your mind, like, that you want to shoot your daughter playing volleyball in a match, then I would think that they would say, oh, you know what, come down to the court level and you can actually shoot it, instead of actually having to shoot from this level, which in any case would be very bad because of shitty background and all that. But in everything, like, first of all, you have to get things in you have to get faster shutter speed, I mean, which I think it's like 500th of a second with serve, it probably won't do unless you're really going for the blurry effect, which is you've done, but in a really bad way. And yeah, just in general, it's a really bad photo, really. And if you want to be a proud dad and give your daughter a great gift of a great photo that you shot of her playing, you can do a better job than this because this is horrendous in every which way. I honestly, I don't know what else to say about it. Like if you looked at it and you thought you want to actually keep this to show to the world, or if you just wanted us to just basically trash and say this is shit, that's what you got to do. You know, I mean, come on, she deserves better than this from you. And you got to. It's not like you have a bad camera. You have a Euro 7D. It's it's a very good camera. Not the camera
But
makes the whole thing, but it actually helps a whole lot, and you kind of
right,
have
but he's shooting. It's an f. The lens is f4, and that's the limiting factor.
yeah, but we
No,
actually
it's
went through
probably
this.
no,
Like
it's probably 5.6 at the
it is,
right
it's
at the long
5.6.
end. So
But like
yeah,
we actually said
that's
about this. Like if that's the case, you'll hear in the ISO issue that we actually talked about in the podcast we just recorded. Then think about something else you can actually do with a slower shutter speed. That's it.
right. This is a perfect example of the limits of ISO because you can see where the light is. It's coming from the top, right? As in most gymnasiums. And so her forehead is going to be properly exposed and the top of the ball is, but the further you get away from that, the there's less light. So the ISO could be great, but there's still no light hitting where it's supposed to be hitting, and it's off color, and it's the same exposure on the foreground as it is on the background. And because you're so far away, there's no separation, which is why we can see the details in the concrete on the background. So you're just setting yourself up for failure every which way you possibly could in this. Like there's nothing good is going to happen shooting like this.
No. Out of focus? I don't know where to focus. I think it is out of focus. Maybe around 12 here, right here. But
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It's
that.
just a picture anyway. Same thing. Okay, so like you're saying, okay, let me take it down and say, okay, now I'm working with the ISO that I can work with. Depth of field slightly better than what we had before, but you're still taking a shitty picture, and that's not the machine's problem now. That's now your problem. What's so interesting about this? A huddle is interesting. What's interesting about the huddle? I mean, like you could actually shot a huddle when someone actually in there is doing something interesting. Well, obviously you didn't wait for the moment, or you just didn't wait for anything. No, I mean, like, come on, like if you want to actually be able to show your daughter how much you care about her and having a good photo taken of her, and you got to do a much better job than this. Um, I don't know where you can start. You can just basically start with looking at other people's volleyball pictures, not the shitty ones, but the good ones. So have a look and see, because I think you're not even at the starting grid. You're basically kind of like hanging out at the paddock and just kind of doing your thing, because you really are unacceptable quality pictures in any means. Like it's really the bottom rung stuff. It all should be all throwaways. All right, I'll give you a bit difficult one. Matt Cohen, Trevor Macmillan, T Mac. It was a picture like a couple months ago. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh man. So I don't necessarily mind that he's not like in the act of shooting, because what's the difference? He's holding a ball. It doesn't matter where he's holding it, especially. I don't mind that you tried to make a different picture, and I guess this is technical. It isn't a technical free throw because there's no rebounds or whatever, so the other team doesn't line up next to the paint. So it is kind of a rare thing, but the problem is that it's not the right angle for this because of the empty seats in the background. So if you had moved I know it's sometimes difficult to move during basketball, but you know that's how it goes sometimes. So it's not interesting enough all by itself, and then you have things like the empty seats in the background that are detracting from it. This kind of picture, what you're looking for is you're trying to show him that he's all alone. Like that's the point of it. There's nobody rebounding. There's no teammates that are huddled around him. So really, you need to isolate the background as much as possible. And if you can't isolate it that much because either your lens doesn't have enough aperture or you're shooting too wide and there's just going to be more depth of field, then you're going to lose him being alone. So he doesn't look alone in this. Like, yes, he's standing alone, but the idea is there's a lot of people that are visible in the background. And this picture would have been a lot better if no people would have been individually visible in the background. Like, yes, it's a crowd, but you can still see their faces. If you couldn't, it would be better.
But in any case, another really interesting moment. And I was thinking, like, which for that, if you can actually shoot a technical free throw in a way that you could actually have like isolate, just that one person and everyone else, and it's not really it won't look very, very good in any case, huh? Unless you like shoot from the top or something, you can see the entire court, half of it. No one's gonna actually be there or something. But I appreciate the effort, but you need to come up with a better way of actually, relaying your message you want to actually relay to the people who are actually seeing your like pictures. Oh shit! I just actually like. It's supposed to be this. It's really worth it. I guess it. Well, Simon, it's same. It's a very mundane, everyday moment. You need to, if you want to get a bit more creative about shooting these things. Like I honestly think this angle itself is not going to do anything because it's a batsman and the wicket keeper and the ball, and like this happens like with baseball gazillions of times during the game. And unless it's a really special moment, like the guy is swinging, and then I guess like he's already hit the ball, and the ball is actually like smashed into the wicket keeper's face, or like the guy misses and it actually hits the wicket, and that kind of stuff. Like it's really not interesting. It really isn't, and you have to realize that. Like if you freeze a moment, great. If you can freeze a moment, I think it's time to actually move on and do something else with this particular sport to make it more interesting, to make it more palatable to other people who actually are taking time to actually look at pictures. That's shit. So, let's go. Bashar. I'm at Cohen. But I don't like it at all. I know what he wants to do, but it's not working.
Yeah. Again, this goes back to the picture of the cricket bowler. Is this Bale? He's just not, he's a super athletic guy. Like I have pictures of this guy doing things that, like I was saying before, would just rip a normal person in half. And this isn't it. Like the only thing about it is the hair tie, that makes it recognizable that it's him. And he's just not doing anything physically interesting. He's not doing anything aesthetically interesting. He's either looking for a header or has just headed the ball, and I guess it's the defender's arm, but you can't see the defender behind him. So it's not, there's really nothing interesting about it.
No, nothing. Hey, I know you can do much better. So
yeah, and the thing is that this is a situation where he was clearly he was taking a risk in framing it this way and hoping that something would happen on the bottom and that he would have the nice out of focus crowd behind it, and that's fine. But it doesn't mean that everything you're going to get is going to be interesting. Witness this picture.
Yeah. I think I invited a lot of micro clones. I think we're gonna do a little bit and not the whole. I think it's like 4 or 5 of them. It's my fault actually because I kind of saw a lot of his and I really had to invite them. Um, I think it's just bad angle. I think the timing is right. I think everything's okay. It's just a bad angle. Like she's coming in this way, but her face is that direction, and you kind of I want to like really either see the face or just the leg kicking up all the dirt into the home base or something. Like it's really like everything about this particular shot. It's not it's not fully committed, if you know what I mean. Like if I was in this shot, I would just probably have gone for the legs and that's it. That would have been it. Like because I think I'm thinking like, okay, at that moment, the best you're gonna have is that she slides and she's facing you. And it's one of those things that you kind of have to make a decision. Like, what's the most interesting shot you can actually get from this particular angle, given this situation? And I would have said I would just have just like framed it so that I could get just a leg and hopefully get some kind of a dirt kick up as she slides into home base. You've chosen to basically capture the entirety of the scene, which obviously didn't work because there's nothing. I can't see anything that's going on except for the dirt and the ball. Not terrible, but I think you have to commit really to a particular thing and not trying to like capture everything because that always leads to very average, very indecisive photo, as you may. I'm gonna go on because Matt is very quiet.
No, there's really nothing to add. I mean, it's go back for 1 second. I don't want to dismiss it. He's participated for a long time. I want him to get his money's worth. So
so I don't know if it's gonna come up, but
that's all right. The gist of that picture is that it's somebody sliding into home and there's a lot of dirt, and that's not enough to make it an interesting picture. The angle, the composition, the way things are arranged in the frame, all of that stuff is important. And so again, don't get too fixated on the part that is visually grabbing you, because that's only to get you to look at the picture in the first place. And then what's the rest of it? And then you're looking at it and you're like, oh, this is really awkward where the ball is and where the catcher is and where her face is. So those are my thoughts on it. It's never about the smoke coming out of the tire. It's never about the tire being off the ground. It's never about the dirt that's kicked up. Those are all nice details that's good to have, but unless that is actually the whole picture, unless you can figure out a way to crop it so that that's all that's happening is her feet kicking up a whole bunch of dirt, yeah, there might be a picture there if you can compose it and crop it properly. I've been trying it with rodeo. With some of these horses are trained to stop on a dime, and when they do that, it kicks up a whole ton of dirt. And I'm trying to get a certain picture where you can see the hooves of the horse behind all the dirt that's being kicked up, and it's really hard to do because it throws off the autofocus, and it's very difficult to know exactly where the horse is going to be, so you can't pre-focus it. And it's just something that I'm going to have to keep trying to get it. If that's the picture you're after, then you need to sit on that and try it. But it doesn't mean that just because you get the dirt coming up and it's in focus, it doesn't mean it's a picture. And this one is, there's even less going on here because she's already caught the ball. She's not doing anything interesting, and the one who's sliding isn't even kicking up any dirt at that point.
There's a couple more Michael Cohn stuff, but we're gonna pass on because we're gonna have to comment on every single one of them. Mike Room. It's a rugby picture. There's a guy with a colorful shirt and what appears to be other human beings in the foreground. I don't know. So what's interesting? I think he wanted to kind of do the whole depth of field thing. Well, nothing interesting happening in foreground, so that's be something happening in background. Nope, nothing happening in background. So that's be really like great location or something. Even that's not gonna really help it. And I'm like, I think you should really know at this juncture that something interesting has to be happening, or has to be looking very, very beautiful. Neither is the case. So when you do something like this again, if you want to have the foreground background, like foreground background focus and foreground out of focus, and you have to make sure that what's happening in the foreground is interesting. So otherwise, there's no picture. Michael Cohen will skip. Michael Cohen will skip. All right, Christoph Oberschneider. Running silhouettes. Very quickly, in this type of situation, you need just one. Like it's too many runners here, and it's silhouette moment. I think you can have like the lamps over there and everything. It looks really, really nice, but there's too many runners, and you just want one or two. There's the twos on the side. It just ruins everything because the one on the right is actually got a nice silhouette going on, but the two doesn't. It's like two-headed monster coming by, and it doesn't really work. It would have been better if it's just one, perhaps like one in the foreground, one in the background, or one in the foreground. You kind of have to. You cannot have too many cooks in the kitchen in this situation. Like you don't want to actually have too many of the runners in there because it just your eyes don't know where to actually focus. I had no idea what was going on until I just had to really take a second look at the entire frame and see. Oh, okay, he wants to do a silhouette, and get everything right, but really the bad moment. So I'd have sat there for the entire time trying to get that one shot. Until you got the one shot, just don't move. And you could have done it. It's very easy because it's not like they're going to veer off the course and go somewhere else, you know? They're going to go through this particular place. All of them are going to go through.
Yeah, I think the other thing about this, in it possibly could have mitigated even what Ryu's talking about. All of that's valid given this composition of it. But if you had shot lower and closer to the opening and waited until they got closer to you, and I don't know if that would have meant, you know, kind of like kneeling down on the outside of the tunnel or something like that and putting the camera on the ground and then shooting up. If those runners were bigger in the frame, it would have mattered less that there were a lot of them, because they would have been more easily defined because they would have been bigger in the frame, and you still would have had those lighter buildings in the background to set them off so that the silhouette would have been really defined. I look at this as more of a snapshot because the angle and the lens that you were using it doesn't accentuate anything. It's just kind of like this is what you would see if you were standing there. So what I would want to see is something that's accentuating the silhouettes. And since you have that light color background, really all you have to do is wait till they get closer to you, and it would look better if you were lower and wider.
Oh, same. Kind of same, huh? With Michael it's just like I don't really see what the point is. Like, what am I missing something here that there has to be something going on here that I should be seeing, or am I really the minority here? And like, wow, like I'm missing just something really dramatic and wonderful over here, and nothing going on. But for most people like who gets into sports photography, it will get to a point that you can stop action. That's how it. I mean, that's the first step, you know, and that's probably the joy of, because there is action, it's movement, and you stop it and think like, wow, like it's like, you know, the guy suspended in the air, or guys whatever, like the car looks like it stopped, and you kind of have to like at that point realize, okay, well that doesn't really do anything, because what does it do? Like I just shot a guy with a hockey stick and a puck skating and looking up, and that's it. What is he doing? He's just skating with a puck and a stick. Is he doing something interesting? No. Something interesting in the background? No. Nothing's going on. Nothing's interesting is going on. So what's good about it? Nothing. There's absolutely nothing that is good about this photo, except for the fact that you have, you know, the action frozen. And that means it's, you know, not really worth it at all, unless you're like, you know, sponsored like this Ova, you know, on this thigh, and it's like, guys, well, no, this is very prominent. It's over there. All right. At Cohen, we'll talk about Borman picture. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea behind it, but I don't know. I guess what I would have liked to have seen is less of the guys' faces. Like those are the coaches' faces are there for context. Like you're not making a picture of the coach's face. If you were, then you should be in a different spot, really. So to me, you could have focused on the pad and then everybody is just context, or you could have focused on the players and then just let people figure out that it was the coaches in the foreground and the pad that they were writing on. I just don't like the point of focus being on the coach's face because it's not interesting.
Oh my god. So I invited this because it really breaks my heart in situations like this.
So
Where,
sloppy.
my god, it's so sloppy. You are, I mean, I you have to be right directly. If you're gonna get shot like this, you have to be directly above it. There's not nowhere else you can go. You cannot go slightly to a little bit down, that's a bit over that. No, it has to be directly on top of him. Because that's what you want to do. That's what you want to see. And it's so sloppy. Um I really don't understand why you just gave up here and said, oh, this is a good enough picture. Like, it's not a good enough picture. There's more to go here, you know? I mean, there just, you have to just take one step. I mean, you can shoot this a lot. Like, you have your camera up and you're shooting right under him, right above him, and just keep on shooting it and just keep on checking until you get the perfect angle of the whole thing. That's all you have to do. Why give up there where it's really just it tears my heart. Really does. It's something we're really against it, you know? Because sloppiness is something that everything about this whole thing is so sloppy, and it's such a great opportunity to get a really good shot off the cockpit and just seeing, you know, like the ins and outs of like how he's concentrated and how he's just kind of waiting for the race to start and all that kind of stuff, and it just ruins it, right? Because the fact is fucking sloppy.
It's, you know, the thing is that there, in his defense, the wings of those cars kind of limit where you can go, right? You can see the wing in the lower part of the picture. And he probably didn't have a whole lot of time to get this right, but you have that, it always has to be in the back of your mind when you're making a picture that is, when there's no action and when you can't see anybody's face, you really need to nail all of the little details. So that has to be in the back of your mind when you're doing this. It's not, this shouldn't be a Hail Mary kind of thing. Like, you should be more careful when you're taking this because the car's not moving. It's not a crowd of people mobbing a coach or something like that. Like, he is literally sitting still. So you do have a little bit more time, and you should take that time to make sure that even if you don't get it exactly right, even if you can't, because you can't reach out far enough, or I don't know, you
But at
can't
that
get
point
high
he should
enough.
be
Hold on, hold
shooting
on.
something else, no?
The point is that if you're doing something like this, at least shoot it wide enough to give yourself some wiggle room in cropping it later on. But it doesn't even look like that's what happened here, because I'm guessing you wouldn't have cropped it like this on purpose. So what you've done is you didn't leave yourself any wiggle room, either because you didn't have a wide enough lens or you didn't set this wide enough or whatever. But if you're, as the last line of defense, if you're rushed, if you can't get the exact angle that you want or something like that, then at least leave yourself the room to at least make it a credible picture in the end. But because you've cropped off the side of the cockpit and the sticker, and you weren't, you know, right on top of him when you were doing it, there's really very little you can do at this point. It's just going to scream out sloppiness, even though you've done everything else right. exposure and, being there, all of that. And this is better. The thing that's heartbreaking about this is that this is leagues better than the stuff that we've seen from him before. Way better. But it's still, it's that last little bit that makes it a picture, not a picture.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, if you cannot get close to them, it's like if your arm does not reach out that you can actually get the really directly above angle, then I would just say, fuck it, forget it, because I'm not going to get a shot. Then you have to really like be thinking at that point, okay, what else can I do? And you have to really be thinking very, 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 very fast. Okay, what's important? What's interesting? Boom, boom, when you start shooting again, but from a different angle, from a different point of view. And it's very important when to give up the particular shot. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You have to know that, but you have to really make the decision very, 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 very quickly and move on to something else, because this moment, this very tranquil, silent moment before a race, is not going to last forever. And I don't think you can actually hang out there for the entire day just shooting this. He's not going to just be sitting there the entire day waiting for you to get that perfect shot. So if it doesn't work, you just move on. And you need to be moving on to be thinking ahead and saying, okay, what else can I do now? So I don't know. It sucks. This really pisses me off. Ricardo Garcia, twisting it around the whole frame thing. I think it's cool when you start out doing this because you think it's a really cool idea. It's just more, at the end of the day, it's more distracting than anything else. The photo has to be phenomenal for you to actually be twisting it. And this just is another day at a dirt course or dirt whatever. And I mean, I've seen far better pictures of dirt getting kicked up. Action photography, I guess it's going to be one of those things. It's GoPro, whatnot. I mean, come on. There's so many better pictures than this. And you shouldn't be twisting it. Like I said, if you're going to twist things like this, yeah, it has to, the action in there, the context of it has to give yourself the right to be twisting it. That actually fits into the whole scene, that twisting it actually makes the whole thing better. And it doesn't. This one, it's a crappy gimmick. Really, it really, really is. All right, Matt Cohen, Tom Bury.
I've probably seen what I need to see of these. Again, unless I don't know, unless there's really something going on, I don't need to see this. Like it's not enough that it's the pretty sky and that you've silhouetted it and used the rim light like that. It's not enough. The guy walking a ball, taking his mouthpiece out, and some other guys in the background. Not interesting.
No,
it's just not.
No.
If you wanted this as like the wallpaper on your computer or something like that, it's fine, but it's not enough to make it an interesting picture.
And this picture, all I can see is the guy's nose. That's it. And it's not good. Like, I know this is the same thing, the foreground, background, like reverse thing. I understand that, but like, what's happened? What's interesting? The gaze the guy has is interesting, but that's really about it. And that's not enough to kind of like put everything together. And it's like, if you're gonna do this, like you need to be shooting like portrait and not landscape, because that extra space over there and this composition you're actually doing, it just doesn't lend itself to anything really interesting. The light seems to be very, very good. Out of far more concentrating on how to actually use that light to your advantage than to actually like get this type of shot, because it doesn't really work in any shape or form. Speaking of which, Kevin Sosa has got a light problem. There you go, Matt Cohen. I know exactly what this is, and I'll comment on it later. Yes? No?
Well, no. I mean, no. But I was trying to figure out what was going on. I guess he just massively underexposed it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, would this picture have been interesting if it was properly exposed? No.
No, it's not that. I think it's just like the thing is like, I think you want to do the whole, underexposure thing, and you got a a ray of light hitting on the athlete's body parts, and that place being exposed and everything else actually not. And the problem with this is that the light just isn't hard enough. Like there has to be a clear distinction between the shadow and the light. Otherwise, you won't get that effect. So, like Matt said, it all of a sudden became just an underexposed picture. And on top of that, he's not doing anything interesting. So, but if it had this been a really, really like harsh, really light and really hard shadow, it would have been far better picture. But in this state, no, it won't go.
Well, it would have been a better picture if he was actually pitching or something like that. I mean, it's not interesting enough on its own. Even if the lighting was perfect, it still wouldn't have been that interesting.
No, you're right.
Do you think he was trying to score brownie points because it was some guy on the Pirates?
Could be. I didn't even notice that. I saw P and it's like, oh yeah, Pirates. Is that? But it's like that's not even proper Pirates. So it's like the fake Pirates, not the MLB.
No, I think it's the actual Pirates.
Really? Like a spring training shot? Maybe.
No, I don't know. He's shooting.
Pirates,
what?
You don't care? Do you care about the Pirates?
I care about all the Pittsburgh teams.
Oh, Pirates. Oh, but they did. Oh, I know. You're right. You're right. They did quite well last season. Was last season like 2 seasons ago?
They made the playoffs the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, there you go.
After 20 years of not making.
We should all love the Pirates. And Reed, you know exactly why this is a shitty shot because it's nothing. It's just not exciting. Just because she's in the air, it's like what Matt was saying about the fact that the tires are off the ground type of thing. Like, it doesn't really make it exciting automatically. Like you have to really be doing a lot more than that.
If she was 4 feet off the ground, it would but 6 inches off the ground, no.
And I think
extraordinary. We need to see things that are. If all you're doing is relying on the athleticism of the person, it really needs to be athletic. And jumping 6 inches off the ground to kick a ball is not super athletic.
And I really want you to start like not putting the entire body of a shot. Like I really want you to start concentrating on like upper body or lower body, just the face, like really parts of the body from now on, because I'm getting a bit sick of you trying to like capture the whole thing with basically no context. There's nothing really interesting. You don't really go really wide. You don't go really, really close. You're just always in that really safe place where you capture everything from head to toe and doesn't really do anything, and your composition's always dead center and things like that. It just doesn't really go. I want you to really risk it. Like I don't see any risks involved in any of your photos. So safe and so unexciting. Like there's nothing exciting about it. Like there's no like oohs and ahs from us ever when we see your pictures. We need to tell us to like show us that like, oh, like look what I'm doing. Like I'm really, really risking it. Or like it'll be a shot that you did, like, one shot like you took during a football match like this, and it's really, really, really cool because you really risked it and you thought about everything, where the sun is and how the light's actually hitting the player and the angle of it and the shutter speed, everything involved. And if you just get one shot that day, you can be proud of it. Like, my God, like look what I've done. Like I've broken every single rule that's actually there to be broken in photography, and this is what I got. I don't see it. I never see that, and that's really, really unfortunate. God. Your photo, your sport, your photos. sportsphotos.com.au. I think I see more of the what is it? Ink blot. What is it called again?
Watermark.
Than anything else. Like really, like that's all I see. It's the watermark. Because the picture is horrible. Like what's going on? Just like, it's a everyday occurrence in rugby. And
if you were, so here's the thing. This picture sucks and it's boring and whatever, but so I'm wondering, are we looking at this picture because the guy's mouth is open and it looks like he's got a big white mouthpiece in there or something like that? If that's the case, then crop it down to that, because it's too small in this to be anything more than a couple of pixels. So crop it down to just his arm, the ball, and his face, and the guy who's tackling him, just that guy's arms. And then you have at least a detailed picture. It's still not going to be anything special, but it's going to be better than this. But this is, what is this? You happen to be looking through your camera and we're pushing the button and got this. I mean, what is this? It's just the most boring action that there is.
It's shit. So now we're getting to the meat of this, the shit storm, which is by someone. I have no idea who this is. Anyway, surfing. Why is it that people think that like action automatically becomes really good and just convert black and white to make it all good?
I don't know.
They think it makes it all good. No?
The angle of this is really bad, and the fact that he's, that you have his back and that he's not doing anything. It's really the only thing that's going on here is that the offshore breeze is knocking the face of the wave up into the air. That's really all that's going on here. And there were pictures here, but not from where you were standing with the way that they were going towards the beach. I don't know. Not good.
No.
I don't see Claudio putting up pictures like this.
No. Same.
Ugh.
No. You have to ask yourself what you want to do here. Is this your son? It don't like that might be really sad
if you didn't know the person who was in the picture, why would you want to look at this picture? That's what you have to ask yourself.
I mean, there's nothing else that's really said. Like, you have to kind of go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what am I doing here? And what is it that I want to do? And I see all the other pictures. It's exactly the same. You are a sports photographer. If that's what you are. If you're actually out there trying to actually capture every single runner from St. Bowes or whatever it's called, this place is called, St. Rose, whatever.
St. Nose.
St. Nose. It's shit.
Yeah, if that's what you're doing, if you're standing at the finish line and just making one single of everybody that's coming by, then you're just an event photographer. It's not sports at that point. You may as well be at a black tie ball or something like that and just walking around and just making portraits and people drinking champagne or something like that. Like, you're taking all of the athleticism and all of that, and all you're doing is, these are selfies basically. It's like, I was here in this race, and because the runners can't carry phones, they've transferred the selfie responsibility to you.
Like, I don't understand why can you not be lower? If you can, just so many things you can do with an event like this, and at this level, like, my God, you can do anything you want. They will allow you to do basically everything but like running next to a runner you can do. And you chose this. Like, why? Well, what's so cool about this? What's interesting about this? There's nothing, zero interesting about this. So think again. What is it that you want to do? Do you want to take an interesting shot? Or you just want to take a picture of your friend, your son and his friends? No. Like, you gotta be really asking that yourself. Like, or you gotta be showing us that when you're gonna go to a track meet next time. I mean, get low, get wide, or get really close, or do whatever. But don't give me this, or don't give us this. This is not really, really good. And you got, oh my God, I don't get it. I took this out of You Win because I want to show to Matt, like, because he likes HDR a lot. So there you go, Matt Cohen, HDR.
Yeah, this is crap. This is just crap. I mean, the processing is never going to save you. If the picture wasn't good to start out with, the processing is just not going to save you. And this is worse because of its HDR. It's worse because it's like if the coach is making a face or whatever, but the player isn't, then that automatically makes it less interesting. The angle is very pedestrian, and you've cut off the player at the knuckles. There's a lot bad going on. If the player, was like leaning back and absorbing this tirade from the coach or something like that, and the coach, you know, had more than a look of mild concern on his face, then it would be something. But you're really just trying to make something out of nothing, and it's just always going to be nothing.
Terrible. No, I really forbid you to start doing these effects. Like, you're relying on them like a fucking crutch, and you shouldn't be doing that. You should be relying on your skills, composition, light, all these things, not on post processing.
There's nothing wrong with processing pictures. There's really not. I make a fair number of black and whites myself, but you know, of pictures that would benefit, of pictures that where the color is distracting and you want to boil it down to what's really happening, but never on a picture that would ordinarily be a throwaway, because then I just throw it away. And the HDR, you really need to, it's not good. Yes, it's my personal preference, but people aren't going to take you seriously. Like, you might get a lot of likes on Flickr because it, you know, the HDR does make it catch your eye more, but you're not paying it off. So anybody who knows anything is going to look at that and be like, oh, I stopped to look at an HDR picture and there was no payoff to it.
Damien Cosisa. Doesn't matter because it's not really interesting, the picture.
This is.
I know what you wanted to do really with the guys, like kind of like the twins, you know, kind of holding off the big guy in the back, but you know, it's not really hot, is it? Like, it's not like, okay. Yeah, has to be something a bit better than that. Sorry. I'm assuming it's a softball game. Yeah, Sydney Littlejohn.
Yeah, I guess original or in the thread, he was saying that he was trying to concentrate on the things that were off the field as well. Well, concentrating on things that are off the field means you going off the field. It means shooting from a different position than you would shoot the action. It's not just like you're kneeled down on the sideline of a football game and you see something going on in the stands, so you turn around and shoot it. No, if you really want it, you need to put a wide angle lens on and go up into the stands, you know. And it's the same thing here. Like, you're in an elevated position shooting the game, and then you see that she has a weird towel on her head or something like that, and then you just take a snapshot of her. That's all this is a snapshot. It's a bad angle. It's distracting. It's not carefully composed. You have tons of people in it who have no business being in the picture, and they're not wearing the towels. Maybe you weren't going to get anything good here in the first place, but if they were all wearing those towels on their heads, at least you would have some kind of pattern and some reason to look at this picture. But this is just the laziest thing, and I see this kind of thing all the time. If you're shooting, I see it at rodeos. So you have the standard rodeo photographer lens is 70 to 200, and you stand out in the arena and you take one picture per ride, and whatever, it's boring. And then, oh yeah, well, this guy got bucked off and he's walking back to the shoots, but I still only have my 70 to 200 on. That's what I see all the time. And it's this, what could have been a good moment of some guy wiping dirt off of his face or something like that, but you had too long of a lens on, or you couldn't focus close enough or something like that. Getting good pictures is about making choices. It's not about just having one lens on and scanning the whatever's in front of you and pushing a button. But you need to make sacrifices. If that means taking an inning off of a game to go down into the dugout if you're allowed to, or go into a lower position so that you can get closer or something like that, then that's what you need to do. A run in the ninth inning looks exactly like a run in the first inning. And the only thing that's going to make any of those any different is celebration. And if you're trying to get the celebration in the dugout, then you could get this picture in the dugout. But it's all about choices, and it's all about, deciding when you have enough of one thing and what's more important than that one thing in this game. And that might be experimenting, or that might be a coach going for a win and his players are going to dump Gatorade on him or something like that. But that picture is always going to be better when you're right next to it than it is up top. And this picture is always going to be better right next to it instead of up top. So it sucks. You're going to have to move your ass. You're going to have different gear with you, or change a lens or carry your 400 on your back or something like that. But that is the price of this game, and that price is never going to change.
Or just like look for another moment off the field, like, or even on the field, like something else that if he's just, there's so many things that's going on in the baseball game. Doesn't really matter where it is, it just has to be interesting. And there are a lot of interesting that's happening. You just have people actually catch it. This is really, it's not interesting. I don't know something like this. It's just a woman with a towel on her head. That's it. It's basically is an iPhone photo. It's not even a snapshot, really. Come on now. And that's it for this month. Thank you very much for participating, because without your participation, it won't really happen. If you wandered onto this particular video by chance, Matt Cohen and I run a sports photography podcast called the Big Lens Fast Shutter, and you can actually go to biglensfastshutter.com to get more information. You can also look for us on Facebook. It's Big Lens Fast Shutter again. And our main thing, well, both like Facebook and Flickr, we've got a Flickr group page where you can submit your photos to be critiqued by us every month on this section called You Win. No, not You Win. It's called Training Grounds. It's the direct opposite. I hope you had a good time. I'm tired. Matt's tired. He's probably going to go kill himself now because it's been terrible again. It's been really terrible. But, without your terribleness, we can't really go on with this show. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you next month.